In this video, I'm going to give you 4 tips on how you can build athletic muscle. Hey, Ben from BarbellCoalition.com here. So just uttering the words building muscle will make most sport coaches and athletes shudder. Most sports will associate building muscle with a loss of speed and a loss of athleticism because of all that extra weight that the athlete will be carrying. All athletes, no matter what their sport is, can really benefit from building a lean muscular frame. There is a major difference between athletic muscle and bodybuilder muscle. With bodybuilder muscle, we're training specifically for aesthetics. But when we're building athletic muscle, we're building muscle in a way that'll transfer over to performance in our sport. So in this video, we're going to go over 4 key points for building athletic muscle that'll transfer over to high-level performance in your sport. The first key is to make sure that we're basing our training around multi-joint movements. So again, if we're training for bodybuilding, we're performing a lot more single joint isolation movements, trying to stimulate as much hypertrophy as possible. While single joint movements can have a place in an athlete's program, we should be more focused around building strength and power across multiple joints, because that's what's going to have the highest level of transfer over to sport performance. So if you're training to build athletic muscle, you need to base the majority of your training around lower body multi-joint movements like back squats, front squats, single leg squats, cleans, and snatches, and upper body multi-joint movements like the bench press, the jerk, and the push press. The reason why multi-joint movements are going to be so valuable for sport performance is because they mimic sport movements the most. And we need to make sure that we're utilizing Olympic lifts as well. When we perform movements like the clean, the jerk, and the snatch, not only are we working across multiple joints, but we're working to build explosive power across multiple joints. Completing a heavy clean, jerk, or snatch requires an incredible amount of explosiveness that'll transfer over to big power while in game or competition. And they're also going to improve your full body stability, coordination, and mobility. Now, as I mentioned before, single joint movements can have a place in an athlete's training program. Using isolation exercises like bicep curls, tricep extensions, leg extensions, or any other exercise that would be deemed bodybuilder-esque can be really useful for improving joint health and reducing injury risk to certain areas. Single joint movements can also help you target certain weak areas that you might have during a big lift. Let's say when I'm back squatting, I'm finding myself leaning forward excessively. Well, in this case, I can start doing things like glute ham raises or banded glute bridges to strengthen my glutes that'll keep me upright during a heavy back squat. Our second big point is to utilize lower rep ranges and heavy weight. When we're performing multi-joint movements, it's important that we spend training time at the lower power rep ranges so we can build up our fast twitch muscle fibers and build explosiveness. Our fast twitch muscle fibers are going to be responsible for generating a lot of force very quickly, which will transfer over to high levels of speed and power. This means changing direction faster, accelerating faster, and decelerating faster. When we focus on building these specific muscle fibers, it can really help us build what would be deemed athletic muscle and transfer over to sport performance. So while it is good to spend time at higher rep ranges during certain times of the year relative to season schedule or competition schedule, we do want to be working extensively in the 1 to 5 rep range with our multi-joint strength movements and our Olympic lifts to build up those fast twitch muscle fibers. Our third big point for building athletic muscle is by keeping up with our mobility. So while we are building athletic muscle, it can still be the case where our joints can become stiff if we're not keeping up with our mobility work. If we want our muscles to produce as much force as possible, it's important that our joints have as much range of motion as possible. If we don't have sufficient range of motion on joints like our ankles, our hips, and our shoulders, it's really going to put a damper on how much force we can generate no matter how much muscle we have. And stiff joints are also going to increase the risk of an injury occurring. Let's say I'm getting really strong on my front squat or my back squat and I'm starting to put muscle on my quads, my hamstrings, and my glutes. It's important that I keep my hip joint mobile to keep up with all that muscle that I'm adding. Because if I have these big muscles that are trying to pull my joints into ranges of motion that they don't have, it's going to lead to more stress on that joint. So to build the range of motion in my hips, I might start doing things like hip 90-90s to keep my hips healthy and more resistant to injury. The fourth big point to building athletic muscle is by using plyometrics. With all this muscle that we're building and the force capabilities that we're developing, we want to teach our body to produce this force as rapidly as possible. So with plyometrics, we're going to be training the stretch reflex of our muscles. So we're going to introduce an eccentric action and then follow that up immediately with a concentric action and work to decrease the time between the two. We can do this with exercises like jumps, bounds, and hops. We're working on maximal muscle recruitment in very small periods of time. So not only are we building muscle fibers that are strong, we're also building muscle fibers that can produce force very quickly and will transfer over to explosive athletic movements. So to recap, here's what we're going to do to build athletic muscle. First, we're going to base our training around multi-joint strength movements like back squats and front squats, and Olympic lifts like the clean and the snatch. Number 2, you're going to utilize lower rep ranges to build up fast twitch muscle fibers. Number 3, you're going to keep up with your mobility work to keep your joints healthy and maximize your force production. And lastly, you're going to incorporate plyometric movements to build explosive power in movements that are similar to your sport. So in this way, we'll build muscle that's not big and bulky, but rather lean, explosive, and athletic. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel to receive high-level training tips and information to help you reach your goals in the gym. If you have any questions regarding this video in particular, please feel free to leave me a comment down below and I'll respond as soon as I can. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, website, all of that is in the description below. Thank you for watching.